I made a terrible decision. I have just woken up, literally just woke up. I am still preparing the shower for my morning shower, and I just felt that I have the energy right now to do a little bit of Commander's Cabin, which I know Commander's Cabin is supposed to be a chill podcast. You obviously hear the background music being all chill, and it's an aesthetic anime looping GIF or GIF from whichever country you're from, and it's clear that it's not supposed to be me just bouncing off the walls in rage. But you know what? It's kind of turned into that. It's kind of turned into this ludonarrative dissonance. I don't even know if I use ludonarrative dissonance right. I just know that ludonarrative dissonance means specifically in the context of gaming when gameplay does not match the themes. Like, for example, if the theme of the story is that killing innocent people is bad, you don't want to have gameplay where you get points by killing small children. But that's sort of what I'm thinking with this podcast. Obviously the theme is supposed to be chill, but then here I am not being chill. But what pissed me off so much? Well, I made a terrible mistake. I made the terrible mistake of waking up, getting on my phone, and checking my YouTube comments. Why do I do that? Why do I do that to myself? Especially lately, the YouTube comments have become cancer. I don't know what's going on, but lately it's just been cancer. Now, there have been a few people who have popped up, especially since I started doing daily uploads. There have been some cool people who have been commenting regularly on not just the Transformers stuff, but there's also been cancer. I don't understand why it's ramping up recently. Maybe it's because I'm uploading daily and more people are seeing my videos. But so when I make a video, there's a lot of things you can say in a video. Literally, you can say anything in a video. And when you make a lot of videos that I make, where you're typically making a point or informing someone of something, then you've got to synthesize the information down into the most digestible bite. So I'm here talking about something, and in my head I'm like, should I say this? Should I say this random thing? And then in a split second I'm like, no, because it's like, here's an example that comes to mind. I was recently making a ranking all the Star Wars movies video, and I was ranking all the Star Wars movies. Now, in my head, I'm like, should I mention that The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker isn't out yet, and I haven't seen it yet, so I can't rank that movie, because I can't break the laws of time. And so I'm thinking about it, and in a split second, I'm like Doctor Strange going through 1,000 realities at once, trying to figure out which ones we win. And I'm like, only one, but I'm gonna take that. But I'm sitting there, I make a snap decision. Should I mention that I can't do Rise of Skywalker? Or is that redundant, stupid, and belittling? Because people can look at the upload date, people can understand how quickly this video was uploaded and how it took time to make that video, and it can't just break the laws of time. And any people watching in the future who wonders why Rise of Skywalker isn't on the list can look at the upload date. So I'm like, alright, I will not mention the Rise of Skywalker. I do that, bam, get a comment almost immediately saying, where's Rise of Skywalker? And I'm like, you idiot, you absolute buffoon. But that's, my first instinct is to rage at that person, but then I draw it back, be a little bit more calm, be a little bit more of a calm Radix, a Commander Radix. And I'm like, okay, maybe it was my failure for not mentioning Rise of Skywalker. Okay, maybe that's it. Whew. In 2017, I think, I released a video called The Transformers Movie Timeline, which was in preparation for The Last Night, not the newest movie Bumblebee, but the timeline of the Transformer films up until The Last Night. So, I don't even think Last Night's included in that video. But recently I got a person commenting on it saying, I think you forgot Bumblebee. And then in parentheses 2018, as if to differentiate it from all the other Bumblebee movies he could be talking about in the context of a Transformers movie timeline. First of all, what? Why are you saying... There is so much to say here. Why are you saying I forgot Bumblebee when obviously Last Night isn't on the list? What are you talking about? Like, why did you go straight for Bumblebee? Did it not scream to you that Last Night was out? Well, how about the... Second of all, I think I've mentioned before how I hate people who comment, "You forgot, yada yada yada." No, obviously I didn't forget. I don't forget. I am superhuman. Shut up, boat. I include in videos what I want to include. Typically it's because it makes sense to include them. So did I forget to include Bumblebee? First of all, the video came out in like 2017. So what do you mean I forgot Bumblebee? Do you think I'm a time traveler? You think I got the time stone? Perfectly balanced as all things should be? You fool. Okay. Second of all, what do you mean I don't know if we're on second of all. We're on number X of all. What do you mean I forgot Bumblebee when it's not canon to the movie timeline? Are you watching the same video? Are you watching the video about the Michael Bay movie timeline? Have you watched Bumblebee? Do you understand that it's a reboot? Does anything happen in your brain besides lo-fi music? What goes on in your brain? Do you think? Are you even capable of thinking? Sometimes when I look at my comments, I really wonder, are there really that many people who can't think? So you forgot Bumblebee 2018 or whatever, and I'm like, oh, there's just so much wrong with this, especially if you look on my channel, if you look at I made two videos recently. I thought it was super repetitious that I said Bumblebee is a reboot. It's not part of the Michael Bay canon. I made 2 videos on it recently, but here he is on a 2017 video, not bothering to do any sort of research, putting the blame of Bumblebee not being at the video on me, and not on time and continuity. And the last night's not even in the timeline. What are you talking about, you idiot? I really don't understand how people can't get that Bumblebee is a reboot. I don't understand how people just don't understand the movie timeline. The Transformers Wiki, which is most of the time good at things, good at casual information, the Transformers Wiki movie timeline page is a mess. They include Bumblebee in it, and then there's a debate saying we should split it after Age of Extinction or after Dark of the Moon. No, the movie timeline works fine up until last night, including last night, and all the IDW stuff. You are doing it right, and then you just take Bumblebee by itself and just take that out of that timeline. It's a different timeline. The debate going on behind the scenes on that page is idiotic, and I expected better from Transformers Wiki admins. I don't understand what's going on there. But this dude doesn't look at any of the videos, doesn't do any research, doesn't do anything I would do, because I don't want to look like an idiot. And granted, sometimes I do, but I don't go out there specifically trying to be an idiot. And sometimes I wonder, like, was he just trying to get a reaction out of me from being so stupid? That's what I want to know. But after everything I've talked about, there's so much wrong with this comment, as you see. I've been ranting for like 5 minutes on this comment in particular. I don't have enough time to respond to his comment like that. And I'm just tired. I'm like, I'm gonna put as much effort into my response as this dude put in effort into trying to figure out his own question. So I just comment, no. Did you forget Bumblebee? I think you forgot Bumblebee. No. I checked my comment section this morning. He replies, yes. Block him immediately. Get out of here. You're literally retarded. I do not want you here. You will never be able to add anything of value to any discussion on any of my videos. Get out. So, just blocked him immediately. Yes. What do you mean, yes? Ooh, my head is hurting. So now I'm like, okay, a lot of these comments are coming from things because I don't mention stuff in videos. Mention stuff that should be obvious, stuff that's super repetitive. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take the time and actually like provide examples or say things that I think are repetitive and stupid to include, but I know there's gonna be one person who comments and who's gonna say something that I'm like, are you that stupid? The type of person I think they're so stupid they don't exist, so I won't say this stuff in my video, and then they pop in the comments, they exist. So I'll try to do something. It's okay to like Boba Fett. My video talking about how it's okay to like Boba Fett, that's the core central thesis, and you shouldn't attack people for liking what they like. In that video, I include tweets. Of people attacking Boba Fett fans, you know, because it's such a phenomenon that it's hard for me to believe that people will be like, who's attacking people for liking Boba Fett? But I'm thinking, I go through my Doctor Strange, I went through a million realities, how many did we win? Just one, and I decided to put a little bit more effort to make this be the reality I win, so I go through Twitter and take screenshots of everything I can find, and then just make sure they're just rolling at the bottom of the screen for the duration of that video. That way, literally nobody can comment, literally nobody's attacking Boba Fett fans, idiot. So I go through that specific effort to edit that into the video, collect the tweets, screenshot them, save them to my hard drive, stick them on Vegas, put them on the timeline, make sure they fade out and fade in. Did they fade out or fade in, or were they just there? I can't remember. But sure enough, when I check my comment section today, the first comment I see, literally nobody is attacking Boba Fett fans, blocked immediately. I can't believe you're so stupid. I can't believe your brain can't look at a screen and think critically about the information that's there. You can't look at something and say, oh, that is something that it is. It is like 8 o'clock in the morning right now. Welcome to the Commander's Cabin podcast. I want to be clear that this is the morning I just woke up of a completely separate day. For once in my life, I'm doing the Commander's Cabin podcast like I intended, which was to have different segments to say different things. Although I am in a bit of a crunch to get a video out. As it stands right now, I have no video on my backlog, and all my videos have been released so far, so I need to hurry up with the video making. So this will probably wrap up this episode of the Commander's Cabin podcast. One thing I hate is, why does my voice sound weird when I wake up? How does that work? What's the science behind that? Because I was listening through that first segment you listened to, and I thought, wow, this is fire, but my voice sounds weird, and I think my voice sounds weird right now as well. What is with that? Why does your voice I say in the morning, it's almost noon, but it's also a Saturday, so, let me sleep. But, why does your voice sound weird when you wake up? I just don't understand. I just don't understand that. I got a glass of water that I will be drinking from periodically, like so. I spilled some on me. You know what? I think I'm just retarded. I think that's just my lot in life. To be retarded. To be a clown. And I don't like this in the morning because my voice can't do all the inflections I want to do for comedic purposes. But, we'll just push on through. Elementary school. You're in your English class, and you're told to write a story from your real life that includes, the following elements. And you're like, what? What do you mean, write a story from my real life that includes these elements? Write about a time that you felt such and such. Okay, well, what? I don't do anything with my life in elementary school. I'm a kid. I go to school, then I go home, where I make cuckoo comics because that's the only thing I'm allowed to do. I don't really have much of a life to write stories about. I don't know how to properly streamline into this discussion, but I really don't like how English classes are conducted in elementary school. Through the fact that they have you write only, autobiographical stuff from your real life, because according to the science that we've collected, children are more likely to engage with stuff when they write about something from their own real life, and that they can't write fiction. I love writing fiction. There's the Calamos mythos that certainly is evidence of me liking writing fiction. Or I like to write fiction. But you know how many opportunities there were for me to write fiction in school? There was a class that focused on writing about every single year up until maybe high school? No, I think even in high school our English classes had us write. But I think I've only had 2 opportunities in that entire years, kindergarten to 12th grade, to actually write fiction. they really wanted you to write things from your own life. And I'm like, nothing happens in my own life. I go to school, I go home, I don't know the word for it. Like, in Japanese, it's goro goro. I goro goro around, I guess lays about. But goro goro has some, like, connotations of, like, you know, you do some things you like, you waste time on YouTube, but it's not really a waste of time because you're just chilling. You know, that chilling time is something you need. But yeah, I laze about, I loaf around, and then I go back to school, and that repeats. It's a never-ending cycle of suffering and pain. But every single day with you people, it's like, write a story from your own life. You know, when do you give me the opportunity to have a life? But of course, all these kids are like, oh, I went on a vacation to such and such. Oh, I visited Europe. Oh, I went to Australia. Oh, I went hiking up a mountain. And I'm like, you guys do stuff? Because here's the thing, my family cannot afford going out and doing stuff. They worked pretty much all the time. Most people are like, oh, I'm getting off of work, time to pick up my kids. But for them, picking me up from school was sort of an inconvenience because, you know, getting out at like 3 or 4-ish was in the middle of their work day. Like, that was the midpoint. So they would pick me up, drop me off, and then go back to work until it ranges whenever they came back, but usually I was asleep. So, you know, they had to work to survive. We didn't have the luxury of being able to like, oh, let's go to the mountains, little Timmy. That's me, Commander Radix, back when I was called Little Timmy. And they were like, oh, let's go on a flight to visit this state or whatever. That never happened. That was ridiculous to me. But I'm looking at all these other kids who are doing all this stuff, and like, let me write about the time I went to the zoo. I saw an animal. It was fun. And I'm like, wow, that's lame. Well, lame in your writing. Even when I was like a little first grader, I would look at other people's writing like, I could do better than that. You really aren't really saying anything. I've always had this obsession with saying something that hasn't been said before. I don't know why. Maybe, psychologically speaking, it's like something to prove my own worth, because I don't necessarily, at least in elementary school in particular, didn't have anything that really justified my own existence. I was quiet, I didn't say anything, I just existed in the room. And in order to make me feel like it was worth me being here, I had to say something that no one else was saying, had to do something no one else had done. So, I would always look at people's writings, judge it, and then try to do something different with my own writing. But of course, I didn't have the experiences to write about. So, you know, I'm in this cycle of what am I going to do? So, 98% of what I write in school is just straight up lies. I lie about experiences so I could write a story, and I think that goes against the purpose of writing stuff from your own life, but I didn't have a life to write about. And another thing, I am intensely private. Let's say there was something I experienced in my life. I don't want to write it down, and I don't want to give it to a teacher of all people. You know, despite me being a teacher, as a student, I hated teachers. I saw them as intrusive, I saw them as irrelevant, frankly, I saw them as unnecessary half of the time. A lot of my time in, like, high school, was like, nothing these teachers say are things that I don't already know, with the exception of math. But my math teachers, I've always felt were, like, pretentious. The math teachers were the only teachers who were able to teach me anything, but they always came off as pretentious and just... I did not like them. Perhaps because when they looked at me they saw an idiot, because with math I am an idiot, but everything else I passed with flying colors. Really without any help from the teachers. where is, oh yeah, so I just didn't like teachers as a student in school. So the last thing I would want to do is volunteer information from my own life and give it to you. I don't know you. You know, I see you every day and you supposedly teach me stuff, but I don't know you and I don't want you to know anything about my life. I'm here because the state mandates that I need to have a public education, so here I am. Teach me stuff. I'm not volunteering anything about myself. I think my family has that. I'm discovering more and more that my family in general is intensely private, possibly more intensely private than your average reserved person. And especially realizing that now, as I'm living alone, and like how I treat my privacy is essentially a reflection of how my family treated privacy, which other people look at and say, wow, that's a little much. Some examples, we didn't allow anyone to enter our house. Supposedly the reason for that was because the house was always quote-unquote dirty or not clean. And I don't think, there were times where the house was, you know, this is well enough to have a visitor, and they would be like, no, nobody, we can't allow anyone. I'm like, okay. Under rare occasions, extended family members were allowed to enter, but that was only rare occasions. And there were times where we would keep family members outside the house. I had a lot of people wouldn't be allowed to enter my house, to the point where a lot of people started to resent me for it, because, you know, in like high school you'd invite people over, like, yeah, welcome to the house, and like, next time I can go to your house. I'm like, no, you can't. Like, no matter how close I was with someone, you were not allowed to come to my house. Scarface, I've done a lot of collaborations with him. Scarface was like one of my best friends in high school, and I believe he was convinced that the idea that he couldn't enter my house was like a lie, and that I actually didn't really like him as much as I said. That wasn't a lie. He was not allowed to come into my house. Any girlfriend I had at the time wasn't allowed to come to my house. No matter how long we had been together. So, you know, it was a weird situation, but we did not allow anyone into the house. My parents work for themselves, essentially. They have their own stuff, so co-workers was like a very small circle that they allowed. So they really didn't have to deal with the social setting of a work environment, besides like dealing with the public when they had to, like, it was a service-based job, so they had to deal with the public to some extent, but they didn't have to deal with the work environment that a lot of grunts have to do. At least not when I was around. Before I was born, I guess they did, but I guess you could say they got out of that. So I'm thinking about how they treated their privacy and how I treat my privacy, how I refused to volunteer any information about myself in a writing class, how I don't really allow anyone into my apartment unless it's for special circumstances. But like there was a situation where I was out with my coworkers, and like they were all getting drunk because it's Japan, and when you're out on an outing, everyone gets drunk except for me because I don't drink alcohol. And then like one dude was like, okay, so do you mind if we all stay at your place? We spend the night there to recover. First of all, this is the day before I leave to go to Hokkaido, so I can't let anyone stay over. I need to be fleeing the next morning. Second of all, what? We have like 9 drunk people here. You want me to fit 9 drunk people into my apartment? And I'm sort of ashamed of myself because I've realized at this moment that I am too nice to people. I'm too afraid to say no. So the first thing that comes out of my mouth at the concept of bringing 9 drunk people over to my apartment to spend the night, and you guys seen my apartment, you know 9 people can't fit in here. The apartment's perfectly sized for 1 person. Once you get over 1, it's too small. But 9? And I don't have any place for you to sleep unless you're fine with just sleeping on the floor. But the first thing that came out of my mouth with this ridiculous idea was, I don't think my apartment could fit that many people. Which is true. But you know what the first thing out of my mouth should have been? No! I should have said no immediately right off the bat. Because what a stupid idea. 9 drunk people in my apartment, please. And you're telling me this now? My apartment was not clean at that moment, by the way. There was 1,000 reasons why it was bad, so I should have just said no. But which they said, it's fine. When I said it was too small. You know, they just brushed it over. First of all, don't invite yourself to my house. Stay out of my house. Well, my apartment is the closest thing I have to peace, to privacy. It's my fortress of solitude. Please do not invade it. How many people go over to Superman's fortress of solitude, like, without his invitation? You know, without his family members. Either his family members or Lex Luthor walking up to, like, gain secrets of the Kryptonian race, you know. It's not open to the public. Don't invite yourself to my house. So then the second thing that came out of my mouth was no, in which they seemed very disappointed, but you know, screw you. Don't come to my apartment. This is my solitude. But I think there's also a disconnect with how I view my privacy and the fact that I do YouTube. Because YouTube, at the same time, I'm very private. At the same time, I value being understood, so I scream everything out into the void that is the internet. But psychologically speaking, there have been studies done on this before, where people are more likely to give personal information, and I'm not talking like social security, but like, you know, experiences and stuff like that. People are more likely to give personal information quicker on the internet than they are in public, because it doesn't fully connect with the human brain that you are talking with people, that right now people are listening to me. Like, actual human beings are listening to what I'm saying, even though I wouldn't say this stuff to a person face to face. It's strange. But back to English class. Let's say I actually told you about how I feel about things. Let's say I write this story and you want me to write my opinion on something, and you want me to write an experience, and you want me to write it like how you want it to be, actually honest. Well, the fact of the matter is, that's gonna stick me in counseling. Because if you want me to write from the bottom of my heart, I am going to explore some psychological concepts that will be strange to you. Because I'm not, what's a white person's name? I'm not Brayson. I'm not Brayson with, I go to this sports game and like, oh wow, I really enjoy sports ball and it made me happy, you know. Especially by late elementary school, I was really reading at a level much higher than I should have been, and really starting to understand concepts like symbolism and theme and stuff, and really getting into psychology. So what I would write is not going to be typical of what my peers would have written. And you know me writing something that hasn't been said before, and that's going to result into some weird crap. And, I would fear how the teacher would think of me if I wrote honestly, and I would fear the teacher sending me to a counselor's office because, oh wow, this is weird, let's send him to the counselor's office. First of all, school counselor's offices are the devil. We need to wipe out school counselor's offices. They serve no purpose. They catch up more innocent people than they... I'm talking about this like this is like the death penalty. But school counselors have done nothing for me in my entire life. They've ruined my schedules when I'm trying to set up schedules for school and classes. I've had to evade them like the plague, and like in my writing, let's make sure we don't get the counselor involved. Because here's the thing, because the counselor will suggest therapy or do some like really low tier therapy and stuff like that. Here's the thing on therapy. Therapy works under very specific circumstances. And 98% of the time, those circumstances are not the circumstances in which therapy takes place. Therapy talking about your issues only works. Talking about your issues and talking about your problems only works if you volunteer it and not someone tries to pry it out of you. And often it only works when you are in the confidentiality of someone you trust, as opposed to this rando whose job it is to listen to your problems and to take your money while doing it. Because, you know, a cured patient is a customer lost. But talking about your issues can help, but you have to talk about it with someone you trust, and you have to volunteer it yourself. That's what I've learned. My experience with actual therapy, like being like assigned to you by like some sort of outside force, has been, "Hello, Mr. Radix, how are you feeling today?" "I'm feeling fine." "Really? Are you not having any thoughts of suicide?" "Nope." "Oh, well that's good. And you know, 3 to 5 more sessions of that, surrendering more money, and then, "Okay, you've shown no signs of wanting to kill yourself or kill anyone else. You're free to go." "Sure, but nothing has changed." You know, you can easily fake out a therapist. So, there's no point. Besides the conditions I've already described. Really no point. So school counselors' offices are like the definition of therapy that does not work. They exist mostly as a safety net for the school, and not as something to exist to help the students. They exist to catch school shooters before they happen, and not understand the students. So, I am drawing a blank right now. I think I've said everything I need to say, but I feel like I should say more. Like, is my point fully explained, fully explored? I guess I should add, like, the reason I was saying, like, therapy and stuff like that. The reason I would say, like, my writing would bring me to school counseling is because teachers and counselors don't know what they're dealing with. They don't know every type of person there is. And anyone who's, like, different is deemed a weirdo, and then that's how you get into that weird pipeline of, you know, being deemed as a weirdo will eventually make you a weirdo unless you're careful about it. Ridiculousness. I moved to a different tab, and I didn't realize that I had Google image searched good boy, and now I'm just seeing all these pictures of doggos. That was a surprise to be sure, but a pleasant one. You don't have a lot of ideas for Commander's Cabin topics, but then once I'm actually recording, I forget them. You know what? The beginning of this podcast was so fire, and I want to get it out as soon as possible. So this just might be a very short episode. I'm also on a crunch for videos right now. Like I said, there are 0 videos in the backlog. So, let's end it off here. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Commander's Cabin podcast. Check out all my social media links in the description. We now have a Patreon, so you can support the channel if you want to see us, you know, keep going, keep chugging along, dragging ourselves with half a body on the lava fields of Mustafar. And, yeah, have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.
Huge thanks to our patrons, including this month's $10 plus patron, Josh Adkins. Check out the description for more patrons and more info about how you can receive a shout out here.